Commissioner Forresty Grupp.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner McCollum.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here.
Okay.
Chief? Maybe I got the wrong agenda.
This is the.
I'm not sure he said he had.
Prior to the start of this meeting, we met in executive session at 6:30 to discuss legal issues. I do believe last week I announced that prior to last week's executive session, we also met, prior to last week's work session, we also met in executive session to discuss litigation. The next item on our agenda is proclamation. Commissioner Gondek.
Proclamation honoring the Haverford Stadium, celebrating its 50 years. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, wish to recognize and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Township of Haverford Stadium. And whereas the stadium, located in Haverford Township, Pennsylvania, has a rich history as a community hub for skating and recreational activities. Opened in 1974, it quickly became a proud symbol of Havertown and a popular destination for families and local residents. And whereas the stadium's popularity grew and its offerings expanded to include not only recreational skating, but also lesson offerings, youth and adult hockey leagues, summer camps, a pro shop, a snack bar, and became an official Learn to Skate USA program site. And whereas, in addition to skating, the stadium has hosted various community events, including birthdays, fundraisers, figure skating showcases, instructional hockey clinics, the Eastern Adult Sectionals Figure Skating Competition, and the Pennsylvania State High School Hockey Championships, making it a notable venue that fosters a sense of camaraderie among its visitors. Its enduring popularity has made it a cherished part of not only Haverford Township, but of the region's recreational landscape. And whereas the stadium has been the longtime home of the Haverford Ice Hockey Club, Crossroads Figure Skating Club, the Haverford Hawks Ice Hockey Club, the ICSHL, and the St. Joseph's University hockey team. The stadium has been the backdrop for the development of countless young figure skaters, hockey players, coaches, teams, and leagues. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners and our entire community wish the stadium a very happy 50th anniversary with many more years as an iconic landmark in Haverford Township.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondek. We also have a proclamation for the Friends of the Library. Commissioner Forresty Grupp.
Yes, we have a number of members of Friends of the Library here. Can they be called forward for a picture afterward, or how would you like to proceed with that?
They could certainly come forward afterwards for a picture. They could. Would you like to present the proclamation up at the podium or just from your seat?
I think from the podium would be lovely.
Okay. Why don't we turn the podium around and then we could put all the Friends of the Library that are here behind you while you read it.
That would be fabulous. Thank you.
That wasn't rehearsed. We came up with that on the spot. I want to let everybody know that's
Mr.
how
President,
spontaneous we are here at the township.
Mr. President, while they're all getting ready, I would just note that many of the members that are affiliated with the stadium themselves are actually at the ice rink committee meeting tonight and otherwise indisposed to be able to be here.
We do not believe that their absence at all reflects their level of apathy toward the stadium. We know that to call them fanatics is redundant. But please, let's move on with the library. Commissioner Forresty Grupp. Yeah.
Museum, and many more. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to the present. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners proclaims October 20th to the 26th, 2024, as Friends of Libraries Week in Haverford Township, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. Proclaim this 15th day of October 2024, Township of Haverford, by C. Lawrence Holmes and David Berman. Thank you. Any pictures?
Photo?
Oh, did you? Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all. Later in our agenda, we will be considering a change order for the library project, and I know that we have folks here from the library to describe that project. So after we get through Citizens Forum, I'm going to ask somebody to make a motion to move that one contract up earlier so we could ask those folks to speak and let them out before we have to do everything else in the agenda. But for now, the next item for us is the Citizens Forum. Citizens Forum is where we have registered speakers and then also speakers who wish to address an item on our agenda. Our registered speakers this evening, first registered speaker is Al Del Monte.
Hello,
Good evening, Mr. Del Monte.
my name is Albert Del Monte, 217 Colfax Road, excuse me, here in Havertown. Oh. Thanks, Jim. I'd like to talk to you, if I may, about the quality of life overall, in particular, the quality of life right now here in Havertown. Not as good as it used to be. I think we've taken a giant step backwards. Pickleball has been a major problem in my life because of the noise, because of some of the codes that are maybe a little wishy-washy. We can address those later. But I'll give you an example. What it means from the social aspect. Doors are being closed to block out the noise. I don't eat in the kitchen when I can and the weather's good because of the sound of pickleball. It's not a pleasant time or a pleasant sound to be listening to. Excuse me while I turn the page. There's also a social aspect involved with pickleball. I'm sure most people think it's great, but I don't. I think I'm off script. Missing a page. The social impact caused by pickleball has to do with who likes it, who doesn't like it. I've lost friends over it. I would like to see those matters resolved personally. My problem. Basically, that's it. The social impact. Other people have felt the same way. There is a social impact. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeWitt.
Yeah, I'm good, Jim. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Kelly, Paul Kelly.
A recap for those new to the noise violation problem that the township created over 3 years ago. Paddock Park pickleball courts were created out of existing tennis courts. Township code states tennis courts are to be used for tennis only. Rec Supervisor Brian Barrett told the meeting room that the paddock courts were repurposed, pretty much like it or lump it. No engineering study was done before repurposing the courts. A study would have shown the courts would be too close to residences and would have recommended against it. Courts are recommended to be 500 feet away from residences. Paddock courts are 150 feet away from residences. The noise ordinance in Haverford Township states the limit is 57 decibels. 2 different noise studies were conducted by a company the township hired, producing data results that these courts are in violation of the noise ordinance, even after 3 separate attempts to install sound mitigation curtains. From Commissioner Trombetta's latest email to my neighbors that she may or may not use as her closing comments tonight, she, Brian Barrett, and Commissioner Hart met with a representative from the pickleball community. Here's what works for them. Weekday hours, 9 a.m. to dusk. Weekday and holiday hours, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. or dusk, and alternating Sunday closures. No one from our neighborhood was asked or considered for this meeting. Back to the email. Please allow us some time to implement these changes, as we will need to prepare new signage and notify the court users. 2 weeks, no signage, notify the court users. Residents weren't notified of the problem you created over 3 years ago. But for some reason, you're beholden to your pickleball community. How about being beholden to the law, township codes? Once implemented, we anticipate it taking time for the pickleball users to adjust to the new time restrictions. Taking time to adjust, each of your Band-Aid attempts to this problem the township created has been a failure. Hour adjustments, failure. Players come and go as they please. Sign postings, failure. Players come and go as they please. Time-locked gates, failure. Players enter the courts rendering the time clocks, a failure. Sound mitigations, 2 sound studies providing data that the unresolved issue is that the Haverford Township is in violation of its own noise ordinance every day the paddock pickleball courts are open. I mean, if any one of you lived where we do, these courts wouldn't even exist. The idea would have been dead on arrival at the first work session. No one wants us in their yard. And since it's not in your yard, we get strung along with optics meant to look like attempts to fix the problem. Eliminate the problem. Return the paddock courts to tennis and remove the pickleball courts, because the unresolved issue is that Haverford Township is in violation of its own noise ordinance every day the paddock pickleball courts are open. There's nothing illogical here. Besides the fact you've been torturing your own residents. My 86-year-old neighbors are suffering thanks to your inaction. You sit there stone-faced without a shred of care for someone's quality of life. Speaks volumes. By not closing these courts, you're showing us who you really are. You just don't care.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. DeMarco.
Good evening. My name is Jim DeMarco. I live at 301 Colfax Road, and I'm back where I was a month ago, talking about a favorite topic, pickleball. And I too, read Judy's email response to last month's meeting, essentially limiting pickleball by about an hour a day. To me, this isn't a fair compromise, but rather shows allegiance to the pickleball people and not to us. I feel a fair compromise is impossible. Is an impossible task, particularly when no one wants to understand how invasive the pickleball sound actually is. We literally hear it in our homes. We hear it on our properties without escape. And it doesn't matter, it's just as long as one person is playing, we can hear it. And the sound is not just for an hour like someone cutting the grass and then gone for a week. Rather, it can be as long as 12 or 13 hours in the peak of the summer, and it can be day after day. You may not be aware of Falmouth, Massachusetts, where pickleball was banned on a set of courts in a situation very similar to our own, almost identical. The courts are being moved to a more suitable location. In a town near State College, the hours to a pickleball court have been reduced to 10 to 1 and 4 to 7, 6 days a week closed on the sixth day. And that is only until they build new pickleball courts in a new suitable location and get rid of the location that's there. I too think that now we should move our courts. Just because it was a mistake to put them in Paddock Park without due diligence doesn't mean we should have to live with the results. After all, we complained about pickleball noise 3 years ago. We tried to be patient in solving the issue with you. We gave you facts that the noise was over the legal limit, and you confirmed it. These were not opinions like we don't like pickleball because we don't like pickleball. Pickleball is a great game. It's the noise that we don't like, and the noise cannot be abated. We talked to industry-leading experts who told us that paddock would be very difficult to remediate due to the court's proximity and to our home elevations, and we told you about these things. Yet here we are, 3 years later, in the same starting point. The noise levels exceed the legal limits with no solutions on the horizon. For the longest time, we were willing to compromise. Just to put the nightmare that you guys created behind us. But we find the township can't even control the people playing on every other Sunday, the quiet days that we get, once every other Sunday. Instead, the limited hours has created a new job for us. When people play on the tennis courts, we're supposed to call the police. Well, now, we don't feel like doing that all the time. It's not fair to us to do that. It's not fair to the police, although we do appreciate the police and their prompt responses and handling the situations very well. So we're thrilled with them. But this is not fair to us. If you want the courts, you should regulate your own darn courts. We shouldn't have to do that. We don't even want the courts. I now see why there's kind of a mistrust in government overall. After all, we elected you guys to be the adults in the room for situations just like this. I know it's not easy. People want the courts. Yet, armed with the facts that you confirmed, the noise levels exceed the legal limits, and there are no viable solutions to fix the problems. Yet you refuse to make the tough but fair solution to move the courts like other townships are now starting to do. We should have the same rights as everyone else in the township. That is, we should have quiet enjoyment of our properties, and we should not be asked to just live with it. So where do we go from here? If you have a solution that lowers the noise limits to legal limits, we're all ears. Without a solution, we are asking you to be a representative for all of us, not just the vocal majority. We are asking you to be the adult in the room, to tell the people the courts violate the local nuisance laws, and we need to move the courts to a more suitable location, such as Murray Place or the Creek, but they don't belong where they are. They're too invasive to our lives, and you can see how they're impacting some of our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeMarco. Our next registered speaker is Mr. Swan. Is Mr. Swan here?
Mr. Day is going to speak in Mr. Swan's place. I apologize for that.
Terrific. Don't worry about it. Mr. Day, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, Jeff Day, 708 Preston Avenue. I'm grateful to you, each of you sitting here, and for your time and the investment you make in the township, and certainly give a shout out to other people here who are amplifying their voices and neighbors and community members around them. So I'm here today just I submitted a couple of documents to Mr. Berman for the record, just a couple of pages from like a PennDOT traffic study. Basically, I'm here to call attention to proposal, or I guess there's a resolution that's being proposed, number 2407-2024, a Safe Streets for All resolution. Just as a community member that's been living in Brynford, working at the Haverford School, walking, using the Norristown's high-speed line. I work at Mainline Health now, 708 Preston Avenue, seeing scores, hundreds, if not thousands, of students and people who walk to work up and down the Haverford corridor, but specifically about the intersection that's been identified by PennDOT. I believe it's a PennDOT study and a heat map that shows 3 serious concern areas, one of which is 701 Buck Avenue, or 711, basically there are 2 planned redevelopment initiatives, the gas station right there by Haverford and Buck Lane, and I think what's going to be a residential redo of a couple of properties that were removed and taken down. But as someone with 4 family members at 708 Preston Avenue, 2 adult children, 3 adult drivers, both driving but also walking. In fact, walking the other day from the gas station across the street to go to my home, which is less than, 150 feet. I had a former colleague and friend filling up his car with gas, offered to give me a ride across the street to my home, which is, a little shocking to experience that. Anyway, you have a CH planning document and study that's been done, and a CH planner that's engaged currently with some redevelopment or demo efforts. We would encourage you to take a look at that intersection specifically at Buck Lane with that gas station and that development that's in process right now. As someone who's driven, walked, and seen other people, many other people walk or commute to work or walk up the street to go to school, public, private, or other, I have great concern as it stands right now with no redevelopment or no expansion of the convenience store or additional in-out traffic in the various ways. I have concern for myself on Preston Avenue, others on Buck Lane, Haverford Road, West Avenue in particular. So I appreciate the efforts and the studies that are being done right now, and I encourage you to use this opportunity to take a look right now at not only what can be done to maintain the safety as it exists, but improve the safety, because I think it's a huge issue. And the other document that I submitted is incidents or traffic reports that have been reported to Haverford Township Police. There are over 295 pages of incidents over a 10-year study. And when you look at, the next time you go to fill up with gas, pull in or out, or imagine driving into or out of whatever's going to come across the street. I can tell you from cars that are parked at an angle, or that light that you have to wait to, whether you're coming out of West or you're coming up either direction of Buck Lane or either direction on Haverford Road, to say nothing of trying to turn out of another side street. Anyway, long story longer, thank you for your time tonight, And please, please take a look at that hotspot area, that area at Buck and Haverford, but also take a look at the two other spots that are being studied right now. I have no doubt that you can make it safe for all residents, and we applaud your time and efforts here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Day. That is all the registered speakers we have this evening. The next part of this is any speaker who'd like to address an issue that's on the agenda. Is there anybody in the front row here who'd like to speak on the agenda? Yes.
Yeah, I have some comments on the proposed amendments.
Yes.
My name is Will Hitchcock. I'm at 22 Tenby Road, and I reviewed the previous draft of these amendments as part of a subcommittee on the Environmental Advisory Committee, along with Peter Puglianesi and Joy Baxter. And we got the most recent draft last week, and we were very happy to see that a lot of our comments were incorporated, so thank you very much for that. However, we feel there are a couple additional comments that might warrant further discussion, as well as a number of kind of just editorial and cleanup and typographical things that need to be fixed before this should be adopted. And so I have those listed out here on the page in front of you, and I think I sent you all an email earlier today.
Right. I was going to say, Mr. Chair, I think we all. I think I recognize this. Right, as the body of your email.
Correct.
Right. Not to tell you can't say anything you want, but I would suggest that going through these 16 bullet points is not necessary. But if you want to tell us quickly what's crucial.
I guess I'll just run through the first four real quick, the most important ones.
Right.
So, we felt that one of the comments we made last time is we felt that the township should be covered by these regulations, right? The township does a fair amount of construction projects, road work, things like that. We feel that those projects should also be held to the same standards as every other project in the township. The second one is that the revisions now incorporate things like green infrastructure and low impact development concepts, which are often much cheaper and more effective ways to protect water quality. However, those need to be added to the application itself, right? The application form has not been updated to account for those. The third one of the comments we made is that proposed impervious surface needs to be counted cumulatively, and that was incorporated somewhat into the amendments, but not entirely in the definition of proposed impervious surface. And then finally, we noticed that in this version, the required setbacks for riparian buffers for stream banks have been relaxed quite significantly, and so we think they should be put back to how they were as originally proposed. The township is, highly developed. There's not a lot of natural stream bank left to protect, so I think we should, try to protect what we have. And again, in the email that I sent you, there's a lot more detail about the specific regulations. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. Thank you, you and all your colleagues for your work on that. Anybody in the second row like to speak on an agenda item? Anybody? Oh, yes, go ahead, Peter. First row.
Peter Puglianesi, Lawson Avenue, also on the EAC. So just as a follow-up, again, I want to thank you all for the voluminous comments we had on the original version. A lot of them got in. I want to say this is a very, very long, complicated ordinance. Judy is smiling for good reason. I'm sure everyone read every last. I think Will did, though. He did a very good job going through everything. But I think the basic is, and what he emailed you, by the way, is more detailed than this. It's very specifically what we think should be done to get it to a final workable ordinance. So some of the editorial things he mentioned are really some serious inconsistencies. So there's one number in one part of it. There's a different number in a different part of it. I'm not a lawyer, but that's not a good thing to have in a final ordinance. So we tried to give you something as complete as possible to get you to the end point as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to explain that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving again to the second row. Anybody in the second row like to speak? Anybody in the third row would like to speak? Yes. Well, please come up.
One of the speakers just spoke on 2407-2024, the Safe Streets for All. My understanding that's not going to be voted on tonight. It's going to be let go until a future time because safety action plan will be pasted on the website that we can review.
So that the board has made no decision until that comes up on the agenda, but I expect that to be tabled this evening.
Okay, because otherwise I wouldn't make comments. I told Mr. Berman I wasn't going to comment on it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in that row who would like to speak? Anybody in the back two rows who would like to speak? Agenda item. Yes, madam.
I am Kathleen Rowe, 227 East Manoa Road, and I just wanted to thank you. I'm a member of the board of the Friends, and we'd like to thank you for the proclamation and for bringing us to the attention of the township members. I just wanted to say that the Friends are not just the group that you see here, but as of today, we got 9 new members today. And so as of today, we're up to 60, and we're really trying to increase our membership. We just wanted everyone to know that we are active, even though the library is under construction. We have a dine and donate coming up at the Crossbar. And we also have our own blend of coffee now that we're selling with the proceeds going to the library. So we'd like to thank you, and we hope that if you're not a member of the Friends, that you will soon be. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I'm a member of the Friends, but I should be, so I apologize, and I will be. I hope the rest of us are or will be as well. Anybody else in the back row there on the left who'd like to speak? Anybody here on the right side of the room who would like to say anything? Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for your comments. I will, as far as I am concerned, the pickleball issue is not fully addressed, and I still would like to evaluate with the township officials what could be done to address or accommodate, balance the concerns of everybody. So I just want to state that personally. With regard to if any other commissioner would like to address any of the issues that came up in our citizens forum, I welcome it.
I do actually have a question. I guess this would be the time to bring it up. I did not notice that the township was exempted from the stormwater management requirements. Is that accurate?
It's exempted from going through its own application process. So, yeah, I mean, since you are the township, you would be applying for a permit for yourself and reviewing your own work.
I see.
Now, whether or not you are going to make sure you follow your own requirements is something that the township could do, and I think many would say should do. But the process of submitting your own plans for your own reviews, no, you wouldn't have to go through that process. You are not a developer, and you wouldn't be an applicant.
Is there any reason we wouldn't include in the ordinance that we should adhere to the same standards?
If you wanted to specify that the township needs to submit to the same standards, you could add that to the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our the Citizens Forum. The next item on our agenda is Bureau of Fire update. Mr. McCollum? Oh, is it Commissioner Gondik? My apologies. Commissioner Gondik?
Haverford Township.
Old habit.
Haverford Township Bureau of Fire report for September of 2024. Total incidents were 70, 57 township incidents, and 13 out-of-township mutual aid incidents. The average personnel per call are 20, 1,335 personnel hours committed to incidents, 500 personnel hours committed to training, and the Haverford Township Bureau of Fire provided mutual aid to 3 working fires within Delaware County and 1 working fire in Lower Merion Township during September.
Any questions or comments for my colleague? The Bureau of Fire update? Hearing none. We will now hear the Township Auditor update.
Hey guys, I hope you're over your depression over last week with those Phillies. But they can now, my Tigers can also now hang out with them, and hopefully the Yankees will be joining them soon. We'll see. But yes, disappointing week last week. But I have reviewed the warrants and expenditures for his meetings. I found no irregularities, and all my questions were answered to my satisfaction. I will say one plus on 2 highlights I want to mention. The Pensy Trail, the bridge came out very nice, as did the extension on the other side. I also want to say too, for those sports fans out there, at least my Lions gave the Dallas Cowboys the biggest home loss ever. Thank you.
As always, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Berman, the Township Manager update.
2 very quick items. Number 1, if there's anybody interested in assisting with a tree planting, that will be this Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 12 noon. They're going to meet at Mary Place, and there are 300 trees to be planted. I just checked, the weather's going to be beautiful, a little crisp, good for a fall morning of tree planting, so we'd appreciate any help you could provide. Next item, you heard about the proclamation for the 50th anniversary for the stadium. So we're working here at the township on a 50-year commemorative photo mosaic project. And what we're looking for is help from the community. It would be really awesome if you could provide us with copies of any photos you might have of the stadium, inside, outside, anything to do with the stadium. Maybe your parents have some photos, I don't know. This would be really helpful so that we could create like a legacy project to remember the 50th anniversary. So there's information on our website, and also you could call the township if you want a little bit more information. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Next thing for our consideration is the approval of minutes.
I move to adopt the meeting minutes of September 9th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, additions, or deletions to the minutes? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grupp?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes. Next item is the approval of warrants.
Motion to approve the following warrant, number 10, 2024, totaling $9,842,427.34. General and Sewer Fund payroll warrant for September 12th, 2024, in the amount of $796,491.26. General and Sewer Fund payroll warrant for September 26th, 2024, in the amount of $823,692.68. General and Sewer Fund payroll warrant for October 10th, 2024, in the amount of $780,640.51. General Fund disbursements in the amount of $3,937,076.89. sewer fund disbursements in the amount of $256,062.72. Community Development Block Grant Fund disbursement in the amount of $47,741.51. Capital Projects Fund disbursement in the amount of $1,338,039.64. American Rescue Plan Fund disbursement in the amount of $859,817.18. Debt Service 2023 Series A principal and interest in the amount of $668,525. Debt Service 2023 Series B principal and interest in the amount of $312,919.31. Credit card statement ending September 27th, 2024 in the amount of $21,420.64.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on these warrants? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Before we get to ordinances, I will entertain a motion to move 3 contract awards relating to the library expansion to this point in the agenda. Just where somebody says so moved.
So moved.
Okay.
It's my
Anybody second it? Yeah.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move the 3 contract awards to the library up to this point of the agenda. I think we can do this by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're now moving ahead in our agenda to 3 motions for our consideration. Gentlemen, before we ask you to speak, I would ask one of my colleagues to move all 3 motions, and then you can talk about them all at once. So, somebody care to move the
Motion to
contract?
approve change order credit in the amount of $17,362.50 with Rycorn Construction, general contractor for the library renovation and expansion project. Also move to approve the change order in the amount of $5,217.10 with Dolan Mechanical, HVAC contractor for the library renovation and expansion project. Also move to approve the change order in the amount of $16,887.63 with AJM electrical contractor for the library renovation and expansion project.
Second.
Is that a second for all 3 motions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will now get some information from our colleagues here. When it comes time to take these votes, we will take the vote in order that they were presented by Commissioner McCluskey. But gentlemen.
Good evening, Ken Matthews and Brandon Petray from CB Development. So the RICON change is actually
Before you get to the specific changes, just tell us how things are going, and then you can go to the specific changes.
So things are going well. I'm sure if you've driven by the library, the steel at the front main entrance was set over the past week and a half. They've started the exterior skin of the building on the addition. So you're really going to see windows starting to go in any day now and really see the building the envelope get fully enclosed. So over the next 6 weeks or so, that's our big task. Inside the building, things are moving along very well. Most of that major work we talked about and some of the changes we've come and presented you before, and even tonight, all those big risk changes we talked about, most of that work is done and kind of behind us at this point. Any major structural concerns, and that, again, that's one of the ones we're presenting here this evening. But overall, project's going well. Like to see the exterior getting closed. That's our critical path item right now. But everything inside the building, contractors are getting along. Everything's going very well.
What's the anticipated time for closing the exterior?
So hopefully over the next 6 weeks. So
Ahead
that
of
gives us
weather.
that last 3-4 months to finish everything up on the inside.
Okay, tell us about these 3.
Sure. Well, so actually RICON is a handful of changes. So if you look at our recommendation letter, so if you recall a few months back, we came and said the existing roof of the old bank was structurally suspect. So it ended up being an approximate $71,000 add to put basically a new roof new structure over the existing structure. Then, as part of the other changes, we have some credits coming back, unused allowance money that was built into the contract that's not going to be necessary for a credit of $42,000. We have another credit coming back of $54,000 for spray installation that's not needed. As part of the project, we've hired a roof consultant. They did not like the way the roof was designed, so we're basically taking a credit back, and we'll be having a new roof put on the building, which will be coming to you next month, on the 1979 portion of the building. So we'll have a recommendation letter to you for approval next month for that. So that will be an add back to the project. And then we also have a small add for a drywall enclosure because we had to add ductwork for the kitchen exhaust in the basement. So those are the Rycon changes. Dole Mechanical had one small change for some additional ductwork in the innovation zone that was not included in the bid documents. And then AJM had to relocate some conduit because we ended up making a storage room larger, much more efficient use of the space. And then the last one is for AJM to wire for an emergency generator to the building if it ever was needed. Basically come up and plug into the building. So those are the changes. Again, nothing out of the ordinary. Right now, contingency is sitting at about $197,000, so we feel comfortable with that to finish the project.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Any specific change order questions?
I have a couple questions. So I do see under the Rycon construction change request number 50 for $71,000. It refers to additional metal framing and metal decking. Is that the specific one that we spoke about last month, where it was kind of we could be a lot of money, could be little amount of money, and so that's that same one we talked about last month.
That's the same one we talked about, correct?
Okay. And then the only other question I have is in reference to removing the spray foam. It seems that the reason why they're removing the spray foam is because now the whole roof is going to be redone. I know you said that's going to be coming next month. Paul, and obviously I'm not going to hold you to an exact number because I understand it still has to be worked up. But I mean,
we have it.
Ballpark, what are we looking at here?
What's our final number? No, I don't have that one. 125,000.
And that's going to be a change order addition.
It's going to be an add to the project, but that's included already. So all the costs we know to date, including change orders that are either projected, things we know about, are all in the budget, and we still have that 197,000.
Okay.
So you're not taking another 120 out of the 197,000.
That was kind of my question.
Yes, everything we know about, whether it's been approved or not, is already built into that budget. So you have that almost $200,000 left.
Okay, that clarifies my question. Thank you.
The project.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues?
Just to say thank you. I don't think I've seen a construction project like stay this much on schedule. And I used to work at universities, and you never even gave a date because it was always going to get pushed back. And I know I'm probably jinxing us, but I really do feel like this project has been moving forward at a steady pace, and we thank you for that.
No, that's our job, and we try not to do that. Finish on time and on budget. That's pretty much what we do.
Okay, let's get to it then. Our first motion under consideration, the Rycon change orders.
Commissioner Gondek?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grupp?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes. Now for our consideration, the Dolan Mechanical changes.
Commissioner Gondek?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grupp?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes. And finally, the AGM electric contract.
Commissioner
change order.
Gondek?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grupp?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes. Thank you. And keep up the good work.
One minor comment I just wanted to bring up. Next month, we are going to be bringing 2 significant packages to your approval for the audiovisual for the building. It's a separate package via CoStar and the furniture package. So that would be, about almost 400,000 for audiovisual and 1.2-ish for furniture.
And that's not part of the contingency, it's part of the regular budget for the
Well,
project.
it's part of the project budget, yes.
But it's not in the contingency, it's not like we're destroying the contingency
No,
with that.
no. The contingency remains as stated.
I guess.
Thank you for the warning, so no one will be stunned by the number.
Figured we'd send the warning, right?
So-
It is part of the project budget, though.
And is in line with what was budgeted?
Yes, very close.
What's very close?
Audiovisual's a little low, actually. Furniture's a little high, so pretty well balanced out.
Thank you.
Well, now you're warned, so you'll just need to let Mr. Gondik know to the penny whether we came out ahead or behind on those
You
trades.
say plus or minus,
Yeah,
Larry.
I got you. Thank you both, and keep up the excellent work. We now return to our normal order. Next things for us to consider are 2 ordinances. The first ordinance on our agenda is P8, 2024. That is the Stormwater Management Amendments, the first reading.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to table ordinance number P8 2024 until our November meeting. Given the extensiveness of this document, I think it's important to allow ample time for the board thoroughly review the recommendations provided to us and to gather and provide additional data before proceeding further.
Don't we have to read it first before we table it?
So it's a fair question. Can we, before someone moves, can it just be removed from the agenda by vote, Mr. Walco, or do we need to move it and then table it?
You can table it before you move it on.
Oh, okay. So
To make sure, I wasn't trying
no,
to start.
no. I appreciate that, Commissioner Quinn. And so, so what we have is, I don't know whether table is the appropriate or just to remove it from the agenda and postpone to next month. But how would you like it fashioned?
Tabling brings the expectation that it would be back on the agenda
Great.
next month.
Okay, then that's what it is. We have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second it.
We have a motion to table and we have a second. Mr. Berman, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondik?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes.
Could I ask a quick question? So
Yes.
if we may discuss it next month, we will discuss it next month. And so if there's additional information that we would like to have to inform that discussion, can we just email it to someone?
So I think to the extent that either the EAC has anything else to share with us, they should go ahead and share with all the commissioners. I think if, for purposes of our discussions, we can share emails back and forth, but we should be prepared to discuss those publicly at the November session.
Okay.
We do not have a work session in November. There was some significant talk last week, but we should be prepared, I think, to have a full discussion about it at the November meeting.
Okay. There's just a few things that I think would help me, make a decision on the ordinance and help inform some of the recommendations. So I don't want to ask them at the November meeting and then it be a surprise and it's data that can't be gotten or things like that. Does that make sense?
So you as a commissioner are certainly entitled and empowered and frankly expected to question anybody who's participated in this work for us, to either get your questions answered or to raise your own issues and see what kind of answer you get. We as a board can speak with one another in smaller groups, but no more than 4 of us can consult at the same time on an issue like this without doing so in the public. And obviously, our deliberations for purposes of coming to a vote are things that we need to do out in the public. But you are certainly free to investigate and comment and share your thoughts.
Well, I'll just give a quick sorry, do you want to?
I was just going to say, I mean, so my best recommendation, at the risk of offering, is to just send any questions you have to Mr. Berman, who will make sure that he gets them to the appropriate staff.
Okay.
To answer those questions.
I'm just really interested, and I don't think we discussed at the work group, how do these recommendations compare specifically, especially the impervious coverage to other townships nearby? Is there a state requirement of, and maybe that's in there, but these are just some of the clarifications I'd like to get. I know that we said we did not have a way to estimate the difference if we went from 1,000 down to 500. How many cases per year is that? But if there's any way to make an estimate of how many permits we get applications for, that's just some information I think would be really useful before we pass the ordinance.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? I have similar concerns and questions, Commissioner Cavanagh. I hope to get my questions answered as well prior to or at the November meeting, and I look forward to it. Next for our consideration is ordinance P13 of 2024. It relates to traffic. There are two items in this ordinance.
Mr. President,
Yes.
motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P13-2024, establishing stop intersections on Woodbine Road North at the intersection of Washington Avenue and on Paddock Road at the intersection of Marybrook Drive. Also, special purpose parking zone in front of 606 Darby Road, first floor.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments about this ordinance? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Mr. Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavanagh.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Now we move from ordinances to resolutions. We have quite a few of those today. Our first resolution to consider 2402 of 2024.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to motion to adopt resolution number 2402-2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. 1, roll-off truck in the amount of $218,534.15. Repaving of the Public Works Yard located at 1 Hilltop Road, Haverford Township, in the amount of $458,519.75. Installation of sidewalks, aprons, and ADA ramps on the north side of City Avenue from Farwood Road to approximately 450 feet west in the amount of $79,985.00. Emergency sewer replacement on Landover Road in the amount of $100,000.
Second. We have a motion and a second. I know we talked about this last week. Any questions or comments?
I do have a question, and I apologize if I should have asked it last week. Mr. Berman, how does the emergency sewer replacement on Landover intersect with the PICO project that's happening now?
It's very close in proximity to where the two projects are, and it's important that we do this work pretty much at the same time.
Okay.
So we'll follow up as soon as they're complete.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavanagh.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Our next resolution for our consideration is Resolution 2403 of 2024.
Mr. President, motion to adopt resolution number 2403, 2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. Mary Place tennis court fencing and skate park fencing replacement in the amount of $48,120. Elwell Field baseball cage and sideline fencing replacement in the amount of $68,350. Paddock Park baseball cage and sideline fencing replacement in the amount of $46,980. Jack McDonald Field site lighting reinstallation along the trail in the amount of $20,600. Jack McDonald Field baseball field lighting project in the amount of $237,000. Linwood Path restoration in the amount of $9,875. And Brookline Park basketball court removal in the amount of $16,280. Brookline Park circular court surface project in the amount of $39,880. Bailey Park playground equipment replacement in the amount of $16,592. Chatham Glen Park playground equipment replacement in the amount of $16,593. Preschool playground equipment replacement at various parks in the amount of $30,004. Brookline Park fencing installation in the amount not to exceed $50,000. Park pavilion repairs at various parks in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Brookline Park tree planting in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Autism spectrum classes and camps in the amount not to exceed $15,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? We did discuss it last week. Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next resolution for our consideration is 2404 of 2024.
Mr. President,
Yes.
thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2404, 2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. Horticultural maintenance services for planters through the business districts of Haverford Township to promote economic development and recovery in an amount not to exceed $36,650.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this resolution? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next resolution for our consideration is 2405, 2024.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I could make a motion to adopt resolution number 2405-2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. An additional amount of $3,000 for the comprehensive parking study in the business districts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this resolution? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next resolution for our consideration is 2406 of 2024.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2406-2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. 5 dual-port electric vehicle charging stations for the police department parking lot.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I know this is something we talked about last week. Any questions or questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Our next resolution for consideration is 2407 of 2024, Safe Streets for All.
I move that we table this.
I second that motion to table.
We have a motion and a second to table Resolution 2407. Mr. Berman, will you take the roll?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes, and for the public's sake, I would, part of the impetus for tabling this motion was that we would like this entire plan, streets plan, and not just the presentation from last week, but the entire thing to be published on the township website in plenty of time for our citizens to be able to review it and provide us with any comments, whether it's before the meeting or at the meeting in November when we consider it again. So thank you for that. Our next resolution for our consideration, 2408 of 2024.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2408-2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. Purchase 2 2024 Chevrolet Blazer police package electric vehicles in the amount of $119,800.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for this resolution. Any questions or comments about these vehicles? I know we talked about them last week. Mr. Berman, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Excuse me. Our next resolution for our consideration is 2409 of 2024.
Mr. President, motion to adopt resolution number 2409, 2024, authorizing a grant application to the PICO Green Region Open Space Program in the amount of $2,477, including the commitment of matching funds in the amount of $2,477 necessary for the project's success.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Also something we discussed last week. Okay, let's, Mr. Berman, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Finally, resolution, well, not finally, resolution 2410 of 2024.
Mr. President, motion to adopt resolution number 2410 of 2024, approving a modification of the liquor license for the Giant Food Store located on Township Line Road in Haverford Township to include the sale of ready-to-go cocktails.
Second.
Ready to drink cocktails, although I don't think that sounds any better than ready to go. At least it didn't say ready to drive. Okay, so maybe we can cut that out, Christina, when we republish this.
Keep it.
This is something that was discussed last week. I believe a representative of Giant Foods came here, answered any questions anyone had about this. Nonetheless, the floor remains open if anybody has any questions or comments on this resolution. Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Finally, resolution number 2413 of 2024.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2413-2024, authorizing the following allowable expenditures through the American Rescue Plan Act. Formalized contract for professional services with Pannoni Associates, Inc. for professional services on ARPA projects anticipated to be in progress after the ARPA obligation deadline of December 31st, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We will now consider all the contracts that were part of those 900 resolutions we just considered. So I will entertain a motion on the first contract.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to enter into a formalized contract for professional services with Pannoni Associates, Inc. to obligate $150,000 in funding available through the American Rescue Plan Act for the completion of previously awarded ARPA projects still in process after the obligation deadline of December 31st, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this contract? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Our next contract.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to enter into a formalized contract with Discover Haverford to obligate $36,650 in funding available through the American Rescue Plan Act to provide horticultural services within the township business districts, promoting economic development within Haverford Township.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this contract? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion for our next contract.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to enter into a formalized contract with Chester County Intermediate Unit to obligate no more than $15,000 in funding available through the American Rescue Plan Act to provide and administer continued recreational programming for neurodiverse youth.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. All right, I need authorization of the disposition of Pipeline 58. Do I have that right?
That's right. Mr. President, motion to ratify the donation of a 1995 Pierce engine, formerly known as Pipeline 58, to the Prairie Horse Company in Westfield Borough, Tioga County.
Second.
Correct.
Prairie Host Company, that's correct.
Wonderful. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the donation of the 1995 Pierce engine to Prairie Hose Company in Westfield Borough, Tioga County? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We now move to contract awards. We have an award for an electricity and natural gas procurement contract.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation to continue with a 2-year contract for wind-powered electricity generation at all township facilities with Constellation through a purchasing program with the Pennsylvania Municipal League and a 2-year purchasing contract for natural gas supply at all township facilities, also with Constellation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Cuthbertson, do you want to give us an update on this?
Sure. So you'll recall 2 years ago, we went through this process, and I had circulated a memo to the board members for your work session last week explaining that energy prices change each day. So we did an indicative price test last week between Constellation, who we're currently with through a cooperative purchasing program similar to CoStar's, and with another company who had solicited our business as well. We did that indicative price test last week. Constellation was the low price at that time. We did it again this morning with the actual cost because today is close enough to tomorrow and they would hold that. So Constellation remained the low price of the two. By staying with Constellation, we are actually going to save about $30,000 over what we were paying under our previous terms. So we're also going to contract for natural gas. We had been paying market rates on natural gas for some of our facilities. So we will enter into a 2-year agreement with Constellation for natural gas, and that should save us about $3,000.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none. Actually, I will ask. There was a lot of news over the last couple of years when issues happened in Texas, and due to the kind of electricity and commodity pricing down there, there were terrible surprises for townships or residents. That kind of thing can't happen to us here in Pennsylvania, can it?
Are you talking about grid issues that happened in Texas?
Well, it was that not only was there a problem with the generation of the power, but then there was also crazy spikes in prices. Do you recall that?
Yes, and it definitely can because that's what our experts tell us. Prices change every day depending on conditions all around the nation and frankly all around the world. So we were fortunate that not only last week we got good prices, but even today we got better prices. So
These lock us in with some predictability for the next 2 years.
this will lock us in with generation for a 2-year period.
Excellent. Thank you for that news. Any other questions or comments?
I actually have a quick question. So part of this involves wind-powered electricity generation. Part of it is natural gas supply. I don't know if this is an easy answer or not, but what exactly do we have that's powered by wind versus natural gas?
All of our electricity, this would all be wind powered,
Okay.
and some of our heating elements are powered by natural gas.
So it's mostly the HVAC is gas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And this also encompasses all of the township facilities. So there's different variations of HVAC systems in different locations.
Thank you.
And before people go looking for the hidden windmills, they're elsewhere. We just buy from a supplier whose electricity is generated through wind-powered facilities. Is that correct?
There is some wind powered that's generated right here in Pennsylvania. That is a little pricier. We're going with National Wind Power, so it is generated here in the United States, but it could be anywhere.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
I'll abstain. One of my sons works for Constellation.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did I say Commissioner McCollum?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration is a motion to award a contract regarding paving at the Public Works Complex.
Mr. President, motion to award a contract in the amount of $458,519.75 for paving at the Public Works Complex, including all alternates to T. Schieffer Contractors Incorporated, submitting the lowest responsible bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart. Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Holmes. Thank you.
Our next motion, our next contract award relates to sidewalk connection project.
Mr. President, motion to award a contract in the amount of $79,985 for the City Avenue Sidewalk Connection Project to Delaware Environmental Construction Services, submitting the lowest responsible bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration is the Oakford Road culvert repairs. Are we
are recommending that be
awarding
tabled.
this? Table.
Move to
Okay.
table it.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Anyone second? We have a motion to table in a second. Mr. Berman, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
To table.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Now, for our consideration, our purchases from our various departments. First with our Public Works Department.
Mr. President,
Yes.
motion to authorize the purchase of one Galfab hoist roll-off from Grand Turk in the amount of $76,201.15 under CoStar's contract 025-E22-471, and one 2026 HV 607 SBA roll-on, roll-off international truck in the amount of $142,333.00 under CoStar contract 25-E23-577.
Second.
Is that really a model 2026? Or is that a typo?
It would be a typo.
Is it a 2025?
It should be a 2025.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments other than that one? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Now we also need to consider purchases from our Parks and Rec Department. The first one.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the replacement of fencing around tennis court and skate park at Mary Place by Miller Sports Construction in the amount of $48,120 under CoStar's contract 008-E22-184.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this job at Mary Place? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the replacement of sideline fencing and new baseball cages at Paddock and Elwell Parks by Miller Sports Construction in the total amount of $115,330 under CoStar's contract 008-E22-184.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the replacement of baseball field lighting at Jack McDonald Field by NGU in the amount of $237,000 under Sourcewell contract 041123-CPL.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Just comment for the record, it's installation of new lighting. There's no lighting there for the baseball fields now. Okay to call the roll?
I was like,
It is.
No, well, they're
Commissioner
taking it
Gondik.
out. Yeah, they're taking it.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the removal of Brookline Basketball Court by Top A Court in the amount of $16,280 under Sourcewell Contract 031022-AST.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the installation of a new circular half-court basketball court at Brookline Park by Top A Court in the amount of $39,880 under Sourcewell Contract 031022-AST.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this contract? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion to authorize the purchase of new playground equipment from Recreation Resources at the following locations: Bailey Park in the amount of $16,592, Chatham Glen Park in the amount of $16,593, and various parks in the amount of $30,004 under CoStar's contract 014-E22-249.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this contract? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We now move to purchases for the police department.
Motion to authorize the purchase of 5 dual-part electric vehicle charging stations for police parking lot in the amount of $25,637 from Hobbs and Company under CoStar's contract 00001845556.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next motion.
Make a motion to authorize the purchase of 2 2024 Chevrolet Blazer police vehicles, electric IMF, in the amount of $119,800 from Whitmore Auto Group under CoStar's contract 013E22264.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We have already addressed the Haverford Township Free Library construction change orders, so we are now at the part of our agenda addressing our naming committee. We will consider motions to appoint people to serve on the Haverford Township Naming Committee.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Chris Whiting to serve on the Haverford Township Naming Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other nominations for this position?
Mr. President, make a motion to appoint Jamie Hawthorne to serve on the Haverford Township Naming Committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations for this spot on the naming committee?
Motion to close nominations?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to close and a second for closing nominations. All in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, for our consideration, for the first position on the Haverford Township Naming Committee will be either Mr. Whiting or Ms. Hawthorne. Indicate your vote by name.
Commissioner Gondek.
Chris Whiting.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Ms. Hawthorne.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Ms. Hawthorne.
Commissioner Cavender.
Ms. Hawthorne.
Commissioner Quinn.
Chris Whiting.
Commissioner Hart.
Chris Whiting.
Commissioner McCollum.
Chris Whiting.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Chris Whiting.
Commissioner Holmes.
Mr. Whiting.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jamie Hawthorne to serve on the Haverford Township Naming Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other nominations for the position for the second position on the Haverford Township Naming Committee?
Yes, I move to appoint Pat Boyle to serve on the Haverford Township Naming Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Mr. Boyle. Sorry?
That's correct.
Any other nominations for the Haverford Township Naming Committee?
Motion to close nominations?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to close in a second. All in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nominations are closed. For your consideration now is to appoint Ms. Hawthorne or Mr. Boyle. Mr. Berman, we call the roll.
Commissioner Gondek.
Pat Boyle.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Ms. Hawthorne.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Hawthorne.
Commissioner Cavender.
Ms. Hawthorne.
Commissioner Quinn.
Pat Boyle.
Commissioner Hart.
Pat Boyle.
Commissioner McCullum.
Pat Boyle.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Jamie Hawthorne.
Commissioner Holmes.
Ms. Hawthorne. Thank you both for serving, and Mr. Boyle for interviewing and being nominated. Did we make any distinction between these two positions on the naming committee? One expires sooner than the other. Anybody know?
We did not.
In the ordinance, we did not.
Okay, all right. Next is the Sixth Ward Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. Didn't I do this last week?
No.
Oh, you didn't.
It's
Have a name.
I do. Yes, Laura, will you remind me who it is? Sixth Ward Senior Citizens Advisory Committee nominee is Alan Lutovsky. Not to spoil things, but I think I'll be renominating Mr. Lutovsky in January.
Just in
I'm
time to
still
be-
serving on this board. So sorry to ruin all the surprise.
He'll serve until the end of the year, and then
Yeah,
you're appointed. Okay.
All right, the next item for us on our agenda is the continuation of the Citizens Forum for any item. I said non-agenda items, but folks can get up and speak on any topic that moves them. I start here on the left again. Is there anybody here in the front row who would like to speak? Mr. Kelly.
The pickleball, the noise issue. Chief Viola's officers have been called numerous times. I can't imagine what that call is like for these guys. We got to go to a tennis court. And then they get there, and then what happens? You go home. Leave. You're not allowed to be doing this. There's not a lot of consequence. for these people that are playing pickleball inside tennis courts, on basketball courts, inside park pavilions, on top of tables. My own neighbor, Camille DeMarco's about had it. Silent Sunday, when nobody is supposed to be playing anywhere in the park with a pickleball paddle, she walks over to gently remind them. If you know Camille, she is very gentle. Well, we'll just leave when the police get here. Okay, so now we're subject to, as Jim said, we have to become police to patrol the park on violations that are clearly set forth by signs that are coming soon. Has the lettering been ordered, done yet for these? Judy? Can't speak to that. Okay.
And I just remind our speakers that this is you folks make your comments and
My
then
mistake.
we address
I thought
them
this was
afterwards.
back and
It's
forth.
not a mistake, but it's just not. We don't go back and forth with each other.
Okay.
I'm not going to interrogate you, and
No, that's
I
fine.
can't let you interrogate my colleague.
I get it. Yeah, my suggestion is additional lettering. Yeah. Violator subject to $1,000 fine. That might help Chief Viola's guys from having to be called out there for, you go home. You're not allowed to do this here. I mean, there's no consequence. People don't care. The pickleballers that were in the room last week, they might say, well, they're not us. Who are they? Oh, they're the people from outside the township. Oh, I thought people from outside the township weren't coming here. So, double-edged sword, catch-22, whatever you want to call it. There needs to be a consequence. There's none. And until there is one, run a red light. Nobody's going to stop you. Yield signs, whatever. You know, who cares? Yeah, the regard for the law and the code that I mentioned earlier this evening, let's get it in order. Get it in line, enforce it. It'll make it a better, safer place for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is there anybody else in the front who would like to speak? Mr. Polianese. Yes, Peter.
Peter Polianese again. There was an interesting question that Commissioner Cavender asked about the exemption of the township. We have 0 lawyers on EAC, and there are at least 3 here today. So I did want to take the opportunity to ask an honest question. So if the township is exempt from the entire stormwater ordinance, what requirements do they have, if any, with regard to stormwater? Now, I realize on certain projects like this whole complex, everything seems to be done very well with regard to stormwater. But what's the legal obligation, number one? I understand the issue of how do you submit a permit to yourself and approve yourself, right? That stumped us as well. But on the other hand, is there some way to reflect that that obligation exists and some process to look at a project to say that it's being met? You know, when one of the very simple items came up today about the paving project, for example, if you look at aerial photography of the public works yards back 50 years, you'll see pavement creep. It's probably quadrupled in size over the course of 50 years. Is this paving project going to expand impervious? Probably nobody in this room knows, I would venture to say. So it's a legitimate question. What's the obligation of the township, and how do we express that it's obligated to do what it expects others to do? And if there's any lawyers that want to educate us, we would love it.
So as one of the lawyers on the board, the first thing I would say is what a treat it must be to be in a room full of people and not have a lawyer in it. So bravo to you folks. As far as the township's obligations, I'll take your question under advisement and we'll figure that out and think about it. It's not that is an issue that's come up in several areas in the past couple of years for us relating to zoning and other things. And frankly, there is a large existential question to be evaluated there, both from a policy standpoint and frankly to find out what other people do as well. So but as far as, yes?
But just a brief answer, and I believe it was discussed at the workshop meeting last week, that we would drain to the Darby and Cobbs Creek watershed, and there are limits on our ability to drain to those watersheds. We would still be subject to any DEP standards in that regard as well. So really, it's just more of the exemption of our own, reviews, our own permits, our own appealing to ourselves, inspecting ourselves, filing enforcement actions, and sending notices to ourselves. But obviously, this ordinance is set up to be in line with the DEP requirements for draining to these watersheds, which we would still have to do regardless of this ordinance.
But to the extent that any of the restrictions or standards in this new ordinance exceed, state levels or anybody else who could impose their obligations on us, I guess that raises the question as to whether we are going to increase our own standards beyond our requirements under the law, right?
As long as we're in compliance with the law, that would be up to the township, correct? But we couldn't scrape the bottom of the barrel, if you will, and say we're not going to follow any laws.
A long time ago, we stopped scraping the bottom of the barrel, I think, here in the township.
Because we still have the drainage requirements into the watershed.
Right, okay. So there are a variety of people the township needs to answer to, that the township has no choice but to do at least to set minimum standards or whatever the legal standards are. To the extent that the township exceeds those, the township needs to evaluate its own role in doing that, both as an example, if I understand correctly, from the EAC's standpoint, and then just also in terms of our legal obligations and what we want to obligate ourselves to, as opposed to obligate everyone else to. So there's your non-answer.
Okay.
Don't ask a lawyer next time.
I do think those thresholds are, higher, correct? I believe 5,000 square foot of disturbance triggers those requirements. Not sure. I could do research, but right now, as you could tell, we're not really educated on the subject. And I think we should shoot for an answer, or maybe a simple statement that while permits are not required, our projects will meet the functional standards, right? Maybe there's a good legal way to say that.
All the more reason for my colleagues' intelligent decision to table this while we evaluate it this month.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Puglianese. Anybody in the second row or the third row would like to speak? Well, actually, second row went first. Madam, before you are.
Wasn't going to, but I'm compelled to. I'm Camille DeMarco, so you know me from the last meeting. I'm here about the pickleball issue again. Just a couple items just came to my mind as I sit here in this meeting. We are on the Citizens Forum for non-agenda items. How do we get to be on the agenda, and how do we get to be an issue that you bring to your work sessions? Since it's been our issue for 3 years, and I see that the stop sign is approved at Paddock Road, which is a great spot. We need a stop sign there. But how is that approved, and we've been dealing with this for this long? And I know you can't seem to answer at this time, but maybe we could get a response down the road somehow, because we don't know what our next move is, because we've gone to our commissioner, we've come to this meeting, so we're unsure about what or who we should go to next. And just two other things I wanted to clarify. In response to the last meeting, we received an email from our commissioner that says, to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time the township has implemented limitations at any of our township parks. And I know for sure that's not true because I've lived in my house for 40 years. And a few years back, it wasn't our side of the park, but it was the other end of the park. They put up a hockey court with 6-foot walls made of wood, and the hockey puck would hit the walls and make loud noise. The neighbors on that section of the park went to the township, and that was removed within 1 week. So we're wondering why, and if the compromise, if this can't be settled, can at least be closed until we all talk about it and get it settled? Like, does this just continue, just like this? And the third thing I wanted to bring up, because it came up at the last meeting and we didn't have time to rebuttal it, but, you know, when we brought this issue about pickleball, we mentioned the problems. We sought help on our own. We sought out experts and brought it to the township and to the Park and Recreation. But we requested that they do not put any more courts in the township because we have this issue and we didn't want it to happen to anybody else. But we were told that the township was making efforts to disperse the pickleball activity by maintaining it at 2 other courts. So in order to alleviate it at our park, they wanted to try to spread it out at other parks. And we pleaded with the township, please do not do this to anybody else. And then the money was put into putting the courts in at the Grange. They have courts at Westgate. All these parks are the courts are closer than our house. And now we see it to other people. And it's just not right. It makes no common sense to us. And we're not being unreasonable. And we can't understand how this issue is still going on. And it's being dispersed. And in order to alleviate the congestion at our park, you want to spread it out. And just think, at our park alone on a Sunday, we have normal activities. We have football, we have the tracksters, and then you add 40 extra cars for the pickleball. It doesn't make any sense to us. So I just hope that you think about this and bring it to one of your work sessions and really take it seriously. And we have a lot of facts if you have any questions. And we have no issue with pickleballers or pickleball. In fact, we think the township should make a great place for pickleballs to play outside. There are other places, but our park is not the right place. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. DeMarco. In the third row.
Good evening, Todd Hall. I'm in the 2nd Ward. Since the subject of noise issues in the township has come up again, I once again mention that a regulation on gas-powered leaf blowers, the noise level it emits, and possibly in the context of that electric-powered leaf blowers being the only permitted type of blower is something that I would welcome a discussion on because the noise can get quite loud in some parts of the township, or streets especially. But my main reason for coming up was to bring up Haverford for more parking availability within township facilities. My thought here is based on when I visited Lower Merion Township, their municipal building has signs that states municipal parking, during the weekdays, but it's available to the public on the weekends, after hours. It creates more parking. Now here we have most of that lot there available at all times. What I'm thinking of is facing Manoa Road near the police station, not far from the new part of the Penzie Trail, because you'll have people that'll use the trail that don't live by it, that need a place to park. So my suggestion would be to look into a way that parking could be signed for township only during, township business hours, but open to the public with reasonable regulations, overnight parking not allowed, et cetera, at other times of the day to allow for more parking. It would free up street parking, which we know is always a contentious issue in the township, and provide a place for people using the trail to park. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Anybody else in that row? Yes.
Hi, my name's Michael Lee. I'm a township resident. I have a question. Julia Trombetta in her newsletter said that we would be getting the final Safe Street for All study. Is that the same as the safety action plan? So, okay, so we'll just be seeing one document then.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else in that row? In the back? Anybody here on the right? Okay, well, that concludes our continuation of Citizens Forum. Thank you all for your comments. Next item on our agenda is new business. Is there any commissioner who has any new business to bring before the board? We will now move to other business. I'll begin with Commissioner Gondik.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. First, I'd just like to take a second to thank all the various township employees and departments for putting together yet another spectacular Haverford Township Day a few weeks ago. It's one of my favorite events, we hold in the township, and every year you guys do a great job. So I just want to say thank you for that. The second thing is just to announce that, obviously we are entering into everyone's favorite leaf season. So just to remind everyone that wards 1, 2, 3, and 4, our leaf pickup is the first leaf pickup, there's two. The first leaf pickup is November 4th to November 8th. And the township is asking that leaves be curbside by Monday, the 4th at 6:30 a.m. So just reminding people of that. Talking about leaves, just a reminder for those with children, specifically smaller children, to be conscientious about leaf safety. Little kids love to play in leaf piles, and sometimes these piles get a little close to the street and cars can't see them. Sometimes things get buried underneath leaf piles waiting to be picked up. So just be conscientious as your kids are running around and playing near the leaves. Westgate Civic Association is holding their Halloween costume contest on October 20th at 12 p.m. at the park. There'll be bag decorating, face painting, and all kinds of good contests and prizes. I encourage everyone to come out to that event and partake and enjoy. It's always a good time, and obviously very family friendly. On a more serious note, the election's coming up. I believe that the election will be occurring before our next commissioners meeting. I'd just like to, obviously encourage everyone to go out and to vote and to, educate themselves on the various candidates and issues that are going to be decided at the ballot box. And also just to remember that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, there are going to be people that are happy and there are going to be people that are unhappy. But we all are going to be around the next day. We are all Americans. We are all in it together. And so I just ask people to maintain a certain level of civility and kindness to each other, even those that they may have a policy disagreement with. That being said, Halloween, I just wish everyone a happy Halloween and look forward to it myself. Another one of my favorite times of the year. So that's it. Have a good one.
Commissioner Gondik, if I could, would you just go ahead and so that we all don't have to go through this, just read aloud the entire leaf schedule for everybody?
Sure, absolutely. I have it up in front of me, so that'll be nice and easy.
Yeah.
So for wards 1, 2, 3, and 4, week 1 pickup is November 4th to November 8th. They're asking again that your leaves be curbside by November 4th at 6:30 a.m. The week 2 of the pickup for wards 5, 6, and 7 is for November 11th to November 15th, with the request that leaves be curbside by 6:30 a.m. on November 11th. Wards 8 and 9 are the third week of pickup. Leaf pickup is November 18th to November 22nd. Again, asking that leaves be curbside by 6:30 a.m. on Monday the 18th. Then once we get into week 4 of the leaf pickup season, we start getting back to the second round of pickups, with Ward 1 and 2 being November 25th to the 29th, Wards 3 and 4 being December 2nd to December 6th, Wards 5 and 6 being December 9th to December 13th. Wards 7, 8, and 9 being December 16th to December 20th, with the obviously caveat of weather dependent.
Well, Larry, I thought you asked me to read that.
Bravo. Next time. Thank you, Commissioner Gondik. Commissioner Forty-Grubb.
Last week, I had the pleasure of hosting Chatham Park's Daisy Group, 16 very enthusiastic girls, so that they could learn and earn their community and civic badges. And I want to thank Police Chief Viola and Township Manager Dave Berman for allowing the troop to tour the police department and the township building. I also want to give special thanks to Sergeant Scott and Detective Lachlan for teaching them how the police work to keep everyone safe in the township. These officers did such a great job engaging with the little girls and all their questions. And they also reminded the Daisies to be safe on Halloween by always walking with an adult and carrying a flashlight. So it was really lovely to see their great excitement, and I look forward to hosting a brownie troop on Thursday from Chatham Park. On November 5th, we're holding elections, as I'm sure everybody knows. And according to PA state law, we may vote early, by mail, or in person. And right now, the ballot drop box is open outside of the township building. If you have a mail-in ballot, you can deposit it in the drop box up until 8 p.m. on Election Day, and know that your vote will be counted. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about a person who showed me what it meant to be politically enlightened and engaged. Before we moved to Boston from the Midwest, I had never met a vegetarian. Nope, not at all. That was an entirely new concept for me, who was raised on beef every day. She was also the person who took me to my first political event. We stood outside a Planned Parenthood clinic in Brookline, Massachusetts, and were counter-protesters to folks trying to keep women from entering the clinic and getting health care. She made me more aware of greater causes and issues. We both supported the Affordable Care Act, which passed in 2010. We did not know then that the Affordable Care Act would help her very directly, because the Affordable Care Act prohibited lifetime or annual limits on essential health care benefits. For most health plans and insurance, she could get the cancer treatment she needed so that she could see her children grow up. She lived in Iowa, and we know that Iowa is like the epicenter of politics early, and so she was able to give personal thanks to the president who signed that into law. So this November, when I vote, I'm going to be thinking of this friend. I will be thinking about which candidates support the issues that I really care about, which is allowing women to make their own healthcare choices without government interference, and making sure that the ACA protects every American so that we can all have healthcare no matter what our pre-existing conditions. So I hope everyone thinks before they cast their vote about your ideals and what you value most, and vote accordingly. But as Commissioner Gondik said, at the very end of the day, we are all still citizens of the United States. Thanks.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Commissioner Forty-Grubb. Commissioner McCluskey.
Just to reiterate everybody's urgings to go vote next month. It's your right, it's your choice, and everyone should utilize that. Just a couple dates quickly. The library, Friends of the Library was here. The library has their largest fundraiser, the Dewey Decimal Run, on November 2nd. I think Commissioner Hart's going to make his long-awaited return to the course. And then just to highlight some of the things that we do here on this board, the preliminary budget meeting, so everyone knows, is November 18th, 2024. That's a separate meeting from our regular work sessions and voting meetings. So there'll be a budget presentation on November 18th. Everyone have a good month. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner McCluskey. Commissioner Cavender.
Thank you. I'll just be brief. I was thinking about the people who volunteer at our polling places in relation to Election Day, and the fact that we're all neighbors, that when you go to your polling place in person, you often live on the same block in the same area as the people working at the polls. And so thank you to all the people that go out and do that. There's some volunteers that work for 13 hours in the polls on Election Day. In fact, quite a lot of people. And they do that because they're committed to their community. And these are the people that make sure the voting takes place accurately, fairly, that they're open on time, they close on time, and that the ballots are taken care of. There's also a judge of elections who we vote on and is simply a neighbor and a citizen who makes sure that everything goes according to the law. They work in conjunction with county employees and volunteers. And as you know, our county is a very important place in this election. So I would encourage you to thank the people in your neighborhood who are working at the polls, and maybe, I don't know if you want to bring them a cup of coffee or something, but anyway, thank you to those people. And I don't want to say a whole lot more except that, our votes are our voices. This has already been said. We all have one vote, whether you're sitting up here, whether you're sitting in the audience, whether you work at the township, whether you're getting a coffee at the Wawa, we all have one vote. And I just encourage everyone to use it and make their voice heard on Election Day or before. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Commissioner Quinn.
Yes, I'd like to say that Township Day was a success. It was great to march in the parade, and it was great to walk around and hear everybody cheer. I'm not sure if they were cheering for us, but it was it was fun. It was great to march as a group too. And as Todd Hall said about the parking for the trail, I've gotten some calls about this from people who live by the trail. And could we advertise to have them maybe park here and not not on the streets, because they take up spots, and you know how tough it is to find spots. And Brian, thank you for saying the leaf schedule for the whole ward. That meant a lot. And then when it's time for the trees to be picked up for Christmas time, we'll have you read those dates too. So and also we all talk about the vote, and I'm sure we're all going to be so thrilled when all the ads are done. We want to see all of those ads and see all the signs, 5 signs on one lawn, and then the next lawn has 5 signs for someone else. So it's it'll be nice to all, or I think it's important, and I've done this a lot in my life, is you sit down and talk to people who may not have the same views as you. And you find out that you can agree on things and be respectful, because we may not feel the same way about these views, but we all share the same beliefs. Is that we feel it's right for us, but it may not. But you may not feel it's right for you. So when it's all said and done, as we've all said, we will be friends. And just remember, when you go into the polls, be respectful to them. Don't scream at them or yell and stuff like that, because they're there for a long day to give back to their communities too. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. Commissioner Hart.
Yes, 2 events coming up. The Haverford Historical Society has their annual Oktoberfest on Friday. October 25th from 7 to 10 p.m. at Niter Hall. It's usually a wonderful event, food, beer, and music. It's a great night. And then the following night, Saturday, October 26th, the Penfield Civic Association will be showing the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out 2 under the stars at the Grange, and the night kicks off at 6:30. And then finally, I wanted to extend my thanks to Mr. Berman for his assistance in the planning and approval of the sidewalk along City Avenue. This enables the residents in Farwood to walk more safely along Township Line Road to the SEPTA station. It's been something, I've been on the board 7 years, and the Egyptians built the pyramids in maybe a little longer time, but they didn't have the same permitting process, so I appreciate it.
It was the first thing you asked me to do. It only took me 5 years.
And I'm still on the board.
It's not done yet.
Thanks again. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioner McCollum.
Couple quick announcements. The senior citizens karaoke at the Crec will take place on October 23rd from 6 to 8. And there's a rumor that the chair of that advisory board, Commissioner Quinn, is looking for a duet partner. Moving along, Sunday, November 3rd, the police canine competition will take place on the middle school fields beginning at noon. And if no one has ever been to it, it's a really, really neat event to see. So that's over at the middle school. And last but not least, I'd like to publicly thank the Bureau of Fire of Haverford Township for bringing the opportunity to the township to donate Pipeline 58. Pipeline 58 is a retired fire truck from Bon Air Firehouse that was donated to a fire company up in Tioga County, in the northern tier, that in July, that region experienced some horrific flooding, and this particular fire company lost all of their apparatus. So instead of the township scrapping this vehicle, it was donated to them. So I'd like to thank the Bureau of Fire for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner McCollum. Commissioner Trombetta.
Mr. President, thank you. To my neighbors, I just want to say thank you for your continued engagement. I don't have much more to say than that, except I value and respect your input, and hope we continue the conversation. I also was reminded by the incomparable Peggy Murr to share that the Senior Citizens Advisory Board is hosting an event on November 3rd from 10 to 2 at the Crec for older adults in our township. There will be 5 speakers, according to Peggy, discussing topics as well as an open house for senior fitness. I also just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that this October carries deep significance for the Jewish community. Recently, Rosh Hashanah was celebrated, followed by observance of Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. In addition, October 7th marked the 1-year anniversary of the tragic attacks on Israel. And later this month, on October 27th, we remember the victims of the Tree of Life Synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. Sorry. That was a neighborhood I once called home, and with friends and neighbors that I knew personally in there. Last year, the board passed a resolution urging the state legislature to take action on a critical package of 4 anti-hate crime bills. While these bills cleared the House, they remained stalled in the Senate. So I urge our legislators in the state legislature, and especially our state Senate, to see these laws through to enactment. I think it's just one step in the right direction. So as we reflect on these important moments, I just want to thank the people of Haverford Township for their continued support of our diverse communities. Let's continue to stand together in unity, not only in remembrance, but in action, ensuring that our community remains one of inclusion and respect for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. My son Ryan has been the star of some of my stories over the years when I've taken the mic at the end of the meeting. And this morning I sent his ballot to him in Chicago. And I'm just going to read aloud the note that I wrote to him. And I haven't been in this office for 19 years, folks, to hold back. So, Ryan, never in the history of democracy has more been at stake than in this election. It is about the America we know versus an America we do not know, a dystopian hellhole that we had a glimpse of for a couple of years. The America we know is big, and it is open-minded, it is brave, and it is unstoppable. It went to the moon. It, and some might say alone, kept nuclear peace for over 80 years since World War II. We elected an African-American president 140 years after African Americans were held here as slaves, and it has the chance to elect a female president only 100 years after they acquired the right to vote. It stands for the proposition that you can work for McDonald's in your teens, and 45 years later, become the President of the United States. Ryan, remember that as you fill this vote out, and think about all the heroes that you honor when you cast this vote. Love, Dad. That's all I have. I'll entertain a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
Adjourn.